Welcome to part 2 of this video presentation about how do we know what we know. In part 1, we looked at tenacity, tradition, and authority. And in part 2, we're going to talk about empiricism, rationalism, and science. So let's talk about empiricism. Empiricism is when we know something is true because we can experience it with our senses. So this is the fundamental principle of being able to see it, hear it, touch it, taste it, or smell it. If you take the example of a little boy or a little girl who has always known that the stove is hot because his mother or his father told him so. At some point, that child is no longer satisfied with that level of scrutiny. It's not enough now to know that the stove is hot because a parent has told them that it's hot. They now need to test it out for themselves. So the young child puts their hand on the burner, feels that it's hot, and now knows that the stove is hot through empiricism. Because you're feeling or knowing this through the senses, we consider this to be a higher level of scrutiny. You've now seen it happen or heard it, smelt it, touched it, you get the picture. So when we know something through empiricism, we say that this is a higher level of scrutiny than authority. When we know something through rationalism, we know that something is true because logical thought or theory tells us so. And so this is when we can take theories that exist and maybe have been tested through empiricism and put them together to create a new theory. In massage therapy, we don't have a lot of empirical evidence about what we call mechanisms of action, so the way different massage therapy techniques work. But what we do have, or what we're starting to have, is some rational explanations for why things might work. So we take principles and theories from physiology and biomechanics and pressure, and we put them all together to create a theory or a logical thought around why it might be so. And so again, rationalism is considered to be a higher level of scrutiny because it takes theories and concepts that we know and it adds them together to create something logical that could also be true. Science is when we combine rationalism and empiricism together. So in science, we know something is true because we have taken a theory and we've tested it. So this is the basis of most research. We have some sort of theory, we think something's going to happen, we develop a hypothesis, and then we test that hypothesis through some sort of trial. So where possible, massage therapy should be based on science. But right now, the body of evidence for massage therapy is in its infancy and it's still developing. So we don't have scientific knowledge for everything that we do. So where we don't have scientific knowledge, we have to rely on rationalism on its own or empiricism on its own to inform what we do. As a healthcare practitioner, you should be making decisions based on these 3 higher levels of scrutiny or higher levels of ways of knowing: empiricism, rationalism, and science. There's one more item that we still have to talk about, which is intuition. And it's complex enough to be talked about on its own. So in part 3, we'll talk about intuition, and we'll review the other 6 items that we've previously talked about.